In this video, we dive into why so many of us get stuck and we get caught in the mental and emotional highs and lows. If you are feeling stuck and you feel like you're on this constant treadmill of pressure pushing you to do so many things, you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you can't stop and it's burning you out, we're gonna dive into exactly what you can do to slow down, release the pressure, and actually enjoy creating your life. This is an episode that I actually taught live and I wanted to share it with you because I know it's going to help you. It's helped my students to really slow their minds down, understand what burnout and overwhelm truly is, and know what you can do to change it. It doesn't take rocket science for you to figure out what really is controlling your mind and your emotions and your behaviors. If you take what I teach you in this segment and apply it in your life, you will see immediate results, inshallah. Stay tuned. Every experience that you have external, it will be internalized through the way that you believe your life is. And so what's really important is that those beliefs, they're shaping our lives here in the dunya. They're actually going to be the cause of you attaining this eternal life. The eternal life, like we call the akhirah, it comes after this, right? Literally, it comes after this, but essentially, it is an eternal life, and you're going to live forever, like everyone lives forever. So the question is, what do we believe about our lives in the dunya? What do we believe about our lives in the akhirah? So if you think about why we get stuck as it relates to your life, in your relationships, in your mental health, in your emotional health, why we get stuck in creating results that we want in our lives. Essentially we are goal-driven people. All human beings, we're driven to achieve things. And those things, it's this innate desire within you to want to actually create things in your life. And the minute you're unable to do that, then what happens is that it impacts you, impacts your state of mind, impacts your emotional state, impacts you physically. And when it impacts you on these three levels, it impacts your whole life, right? So what ties us up and keeps us stuck right from the offset is how we believe our lives are, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about our creator, and what we believe about our future. These four things will impact your whole life. What you believe about your future is the most important of all of those, because it will either compel you to move forward in your life into that future, or it will actually slow you down to the point that you feel stuck. So I want to just share with you that the fact that Allah tells us that He will not change the condition of a people until they change themselves means that you have, this is implicit and explicit. It's very clear that we have the ability to create change in the world. And I want to tell you the reason for why, if you feel stuck or you have felt stuck, the reason for why you have not been able to get unstuck is not because you're not smart enough. It's not because you're not resourceful enough or you don't have enough. You have everything you need in any given moment to create some results. And those results are enough to actually get us into a state of momentum. It's like building a wall, a brick wall. You need to build it placing one brick at a time. And if you place one brick at a time, you're not overwhelmed with all of these bricks which are too heavy for you to deal with, right? And so when you're having to deal with your whole life and you're trying to deal with all of it in one go, it's going to really weigh you down. It's going to make you feel overwhelmed. It's going to put a lot of pressure on you, and you're going to feel like you can't actually create results. You're not going to be able to do this. And when you believe you can't do this, you won't do it, because your beliefs are driving everything in your life. This is you and I and every human being on the face of the planet. So the thing is, how do we gain this future that we want? You do that by gaining the present. You've got to gain the present in order to gain the future. The future is not going to happen one day in the future. It happens right now in the present. And this is why, as we go through this process with the science of the nafs, what we learn to do is we learn to get unstuck. And when you get unstuck, you learn to actually start creating momentum in your life, and you will create the results that you want. And you do that by, number one, you've got to believe in yourself. And here's the thing, like belief in, like many of us, like we feel as though we do believe in ourselves and we achieve a lot and we do a lot. But regardless of that, we still feel stuck. Now, when you feel stuck, there are hidden beliefs that are shaping your life that you just don't know about. This is what's happening. So it's a common thing. This is not something that only you are experiencing in the world. Like most people feel that. The people that you look at that you think are successful, they've achieved whatever they wanted to achieve. Like when you look at those people and you're thinking that they have something you don't have, the difference between you and them is not the resources. It's not all of those things, because all of those things you could have them if you had your mind on your side. So when I'm talking belief, like really what we're talking about is the state of your heart, right? And this is not esoterical. This is not something, like it's spiritual. It's very spiritual, but it's not spiritual in the, the philosophical way. Like it's spiritual in the literal sense that your heart is determining your whole life. Meaning that because the home of belief is the heart. The home of belief is the heart. So when your heart is inclined towards your future, towards your life and all of those things that you want, then what's going to happen is that you're going to stop feeling overwhelmed, right? And when you stop feeling overwhelmed, you're going to stop running at everything in your life like a bull in a china shop, because that's what we do. We try and force our way through life in order to get the things that we want. And you don't have to force your way through life to do that. And a lot of people, you hear people talk about, like white knuckling it through, like meaning that they force the results, right? They force the results, and you can get away with that. And you've probably done that for a long time and you've got away with it. But you can't do that forever, because when you do that forever, what will happen is that there will come a point where your body will need to stop. Your mind will need to stop. And if you don't allow it to stop, what happens is that you get this, gut feeling, if you like, in the pit of your stomach, right? And something's off. You know that something's not working the way you want it to work. And what happens is that we actually start to break down through the fear, the chronic stress, the overwhelm, the anxiety. And a lot of times we don't even recognize it's anxiety. Like myself, for years, I didn't recognize that I was experiencing anxiety. And I thought it was just this discomfort. And it actually served me to a point, because when you have this, this uncomfortable feeling driving you and you want to stop it, what you do is that you go after your goals. You go after the things that you think will give you the results that you're after. And it alleviates a little, and it actually drives you to get results. So many people, especially those of us who end up burning out and having physical problems, like mental health problems, emotional problems, relationship problems, like all of this impacts all of your life. And most of us that get caught in this, it's usually because we're trying to outrace what we're experiencing. And what really happens is that you get stuck. You get stuck in this cycle of achievement and, short-term fixes. And really what actually remains there is the very thing that you've been avoiding, right? The things that we've been avoiding, the things that we were hoping will disappear, they don't disappear. And this is why it's so important to recognize the science, to understand what's happening, because what drives us, behavioral, right? All of your behaviors, what drives your behaviors is how you feel. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed out, if you're feeling the pressure of all of your life, if you're feeling the pressure of trying to keep up and stay on this treadmill so that you can keep it all together, what's going to happen is that your fear and your worry and your anxieties are going to drive you, even if you don't recognize it. And when that happens for long enough, we experience burnout, right? Now, I've experienced it several times. And I know many of my students, when they come in, they've experienced it, and they get to a point where they're physically shutting down. And it's really important to understand what this is, because it's not something that you go to the doctors and they see symptoms and they pick up on the symptoms. Like many of my clients who have this problem are doctors, right? So the thing is, you're experiencing this, and what's happening is that your body is telling you slow down, Your mind is telling you, no, you need to keep on doing this, otherwise you're not going to get what you want. And so what we do is that we actually get caught in this pressure that we create internally, and we're racing after what we want. We're racing after what we want in the hope that what we feel will get relief from it the minute we achieve what we're after. But what we realize is that it's never enough. You know, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ibn Adam, humanity, like if they were given a mountain of gold, they would want for another. You know what that means? That means that it's the way that we've been created. Like you and I, we've been created to want more, right? So that means that even if you've got a mountain, you're going to want another. Even if you've got one car, you're going to want another. Even if you've got one house, you're going to want another. Whatever you get, you're going to want another, because it's the default. It's the way that we've been created. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That doesn't mean that you're greedy. It doesn't mean any of these things. But what it means is that we have this yearning to always get more, right? And because of that, you see civilization grows because of that. So it drives the growth of you as an individual, and it also drives the growth of like your community, your family. Like it drives all growth. The problem that we have is that we're always going to be in this cycle. So if you need for these things to actually be okay, you're going to be stuck because you're never going to have enough. That's the problem, right? So why do we burn out then? Why do we experience mental and physical exhaustion? Because that's what really happens. The driving of your mind, like what's happening here, your beliefs about your life, like it's driving you, right? And when you're being driven to get the things that you're after, and you want to feel happy, you want to have good relationships, you want to experience love and compassion, you want to receive it as much as you want to give it, like what's going to happen is that you're going to do the things that you think will get you that, right? And this is the reason why we're forever like looking for more. We're forever looking for more because we want to fill a gap which is already that you can feel, but it's inside of you. It's not outside of you, and nothing outside of you will ever fill that thing, right? Not even your spouse, not even your kids. No one can fill this. So the thing is, like, the only way that you can solve this is that you need to solve it, right? You need to solve it. And that is going back to right at the beginning of what we spoke about. It starts off with what you believe. Right? What you believe, what you think and believe. Like essentially, you know, like what this means is what you think, right? What you think is determining your life. What you think is determining your life. And we know that, you know, if you think about everything that you've experienced in your life up until now, like what we think has actually shaped the way we feel about those things. And if we're forever chasing and we're never recognizing what we have, then we're never, no matter how much you get, you're never going to actually get there. Because if you can't be happy with where you are now, you won't be happy with where you are going to be when you get there, which means that it's an internal thing, right? This is good news. It's good news and it's bad news. The good news is that if you take control of the internal, it means the external will become yours. Like the world is like for you, right? The world is for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created like everything in the heavens and the earth for us. So that means that you can get all of those things. But if you are never happy with where you are, you'll never be happy with where you get to, because when you get there, it's like that's your new default. And when we're at this new default, it's like we're already looking ahead and looking for the next thing. So it's like that mountain of gold. You got the mountain of gold, and now like you've arrived there, and it's like arrival, but we don't feel it, right? Why don't we feel it? Because we've got our sights on what's in the future, right? Now, this doesn't mean there's something wrong with us, but what it means is that you've got to know where to start, and you've got to know that burnout is like really like feeling emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted. The physical comes last. Right? Because what happens is that we're chasing this thing in our lives. We're chasing all of these things, that the things we desire. And when we get there, it's not enough. So we're back on the treadmill. We're back chasing it again. And then what happens is that like you get the second thing and then the third thing and the fourth thing. And you're forever doing this, and it's never enough. And so you think you've got to have what all the quote unquote experts are telling you to have. And when you get that, you'll be happy. And actually, it never comes. And then you realize that no matter what you get, it doesn't make a difference. Like all of it is ephemeral. It's like it's 1 minute you're okay, and next minute you're back to it's like the shiny new object, right? The shiny new object. Like you're always after that. And we're always after the shiny new object because it sparkles, it looks good, and it's enticing. And so the thing is, like, if you don't change the state of your mind, like what will happen is that you will forever chase these shiny new objects. And the most important thing that any one of us could do is do what Allah says. Like if you change the condition, your condition, ma bi anfusihim, like if you change your condition, then what will happen is that Allah will change all of it for you, right? That requires a level of trust. That requires for us to actually, go back to what I began this with, which is to believe, right? So here's the thing, like your belief, you and I, what we believe in about our lives will shape our lives. What you believe about the people in your life will actually shape the way you experience the people in your life, right? What you believe about the world will shape your world. And so the thing is, if you want to change, like really what's happening in your life, like you've got to really take control of the most important thing in your life, which is the state of your mind. When you take control of the state of your mind, everything changes. Everything changes. Your experience of life changes. And what that will do for us is that you stop in this emotional sabotage, right? We get into this state of self-sabotage. And I want to just touch on this. Like self-sabotage, like we're in this self-sabotage because there's a really simple reason. Like what in the Science of the Nafs certification program, one of the fundamental tools that we learn is that there's the human being is constantly in a state of this emotional escapism, right? We're in this emotional escapism. And what that means is that we're forever trying to escape something that we're experiencing that we don't like, right? Because we yearn for pleasure and we don't like pain, right? But a lot of times the pain drives you, right? How is it driving you when you're trying to escape that pain? Because when you experience pain of a relationship, pain of, discontentment, pain of not having the life that you would like to have. Like when you're trying to escape that, what we usually do is that we think, because, we're resourceful people, we think that if we do more of something, like we will likely avert this problem and actually gain what we want. And so we're on this treadmill forever trying to get more and more and more and more. And it's not that you can't have more, you can have it all. But the problem is, like having it all does not mean that this pain is solved. The pain is solved when you actually slow your mind down and stop trying to escape it. Like when you slow down, and no one likes to slow down. So the people like you and I who experience like burnout, who experience like, being mentally and physically exhausted, it's because like we're forever doing a lot. And if you do a lot from fear, and it's driven by fear, or it's driven by anxiety about your future and how it might turn out, it's driven by worry and the pressure of all of the things you've got to do. And you think that if I get these things done, everything will be okay. But once you get it done, then there's more to be done, right? So the thing is, if these emotions drive you, and all emotions drive us, right? What's going to happen is that if you start feeling the pressure, if you start feeling the anxiety, if you start feeling the fear and the worry, then what happens is that you want to escape it. You want to escape it. And then we escape this to go to some things that's, maybe more pleasurable. Maybe it's surfing, maybe it's consuming. And people stay stuck in consumption mode, like consuming stuff on YouTube and whatever you're doing. And whenever you're consuming, like you're not creating results in your life because you're consuming, right? Like consumption, even if it's educational, like let's say this, for example, like when you are consuming the information, like you're just primarying yourself. You're like getting yourself ready to take action. But if you don't take action, if you never move forward because of the fear And this is where self-belief comes into place, right? Because of the fear of letting ourselves down, because of the fear of failing, because of the fear that things will go wrong. If you never take action, then what will happen is that you will not create any results. Because what creates results is belief and action. Those two, the two have to come, they come together. You can't do one without the other. If you do one without the other, then you get some results. Like, passive action, something like this, where you're consuming, right? Where you're learning. This is action, but it's passive action. It doesn't require you to do anything, right? So the minute you learn this stuff, then you got to take action, right? And the action that we take, it starts to create results, but they're based on like new beliefs, new emotions that are driving this behavior. And when we do that, we get to create results. And listen, everything that you've achieved in your life has been done this way. If I think about for myself, like the example of wanting to actually serve Allah, like to do something that is, really going to help me, like raise my family, raise myself, like, become the person that I want to be. Like, because that's the most important thing to every one of us. Like, become the person that I want to be. Like, to do that, like, there's a bunch of things that I need to believe first, right? There's a bunch of things I need to believe first. Like, one, I have to totally trust Allah, because I'm going to have to do things that I have not yet experienced. Right. And this is where the fear of failure comes in, because the minute we have to do something new, never done it before, then we start to fear failure. We start to fear, what if it goes wrong? And then we start to catastrophize about the future. And when you do that, even though you're not taking any action, what's happening is your mind goes into overdrive and you start to incessantly think. And when you get into incessant thinking, no action, you actually create like results that you don't want. Like incessant thinking, no action, means that you get stuck. So the whole thing about getting stuck is that sometimes you do nothing and you feel exhausted, physically exhausted. Why do we feel physically exhausted? Because the mind is driving your energy. Your physical energy in your body is being driven by your mind. And this is why it's so important to understand that mental and emotional sabotage happens because we're trying to avert something that we fear, something that we worry about. And in order to try and stop that from happening, we do nothing. And as a result, we don't get the results that we want. And then we feel as though we failed anyway, right? And when you do this, for consistent periods of time, what will happen is that you get into a mental and emotional rut. And that's when you get mentally and emotionally stuck. When we feel mentally and emotionally stuck, we get stuck physically in our lives. That means that maybe in the relationships you're having, you're getting stuck. Maybe in, the business ventures or your career or whatever you're doing in the world, like raising your kids, like you're getting mentally, emotionally stuck and you're on edge. So around your kids, you're stressed. And so there's no smile on your face. There's no, there's no love and compassion coming through in your behavior. And as a result, it impacts your home life. It impacts your relationships. As a result, it impacts, you see this, behavior coming from the people around you, and you're thinking what do I do to deserve that? And really what we don't realize, what we're not aware of, is that what we put out into the world actually draws back to us what we put out. And we don't realize it. But look, think about this. Who walks around with a mirror? No one walks around looking at themselves in a mirror. I mean, we live in the selfie time period, but even in the selfie time period, you're making those faces when you put the camera on. But when no one walks around with a mirror, like looking at themselves and looking at their behaviors, looking at their mind and seeing what's creating their results. And this is the most important thing. So what I want to talk to you about and how to solve this challenge, there's a few things you can do, right? And the most important of those things is that you have to take control of the thing that's creating all of your results, right? Your results, like all of us, the results that we create in our lives, is being created by what we think and believe, our mind, and that's driving our behaviors. That's it's driving your emotions, and those very same pressures and stresses and anxieties and worries that we get caught up in, like the mind is driving it, but we think that it's everything outside of us, the pressures of the world. The pressures of the world can't force your mind to do a thing. It's your mind that drives everything in your world. And I want you to think about this. If you think about your life as a bubble, right? Think about your life as a bubble. Everything in your mind is that bubble, right? Think about it as like a balloon, right? Everything in your mind is contained within that balloon. Whatever you look at through the lens of this bubble, you're looking at the world through your bubble, right? And when you look at the world through your bubble, what's going to happen is that it will be tainted by the information in this. So if you think that everyone's awful, then whoever you meet, even if they're nice, you're going to think they're awful. If you think that, there's no good people in the world, then whoever you meet, what you're going to do is that you're going to create that result in your life. You're going to put out what you don't want to experience, and you're going to get back what you don't want to experience. So look, that gets too philosophical. I want to be more explicit. What you believe about the people, what you believe about the world, what you believe about Allah will shape your life. What you believe about yourself, whether you believe in yourself or not, will shape your life. If you don't believe in yourself, then what's going to happen is that you will always ask questions that make you doubt yourself, right? You'll always ask questions that make you doubt yourself. You'll always say, what if? And the what if, we know this is amal al-shaitan. This is like one of the tools of shaitan that he uses to instill doubt and uncertainty. Because when you have doubt and uncertainty, like, you become really insecure. And this is every human. When we have doubt and insecurity, uncertainty, we become insecure. And when we become insecure, our behavior reflects that. The choices we make reflect that. So what will change that is that you have to believe in yourself first, right? So let me just tell you first, before I jump into believing yourself, because this is ultimately what I wanted to share with you in this session. But let me just say, the number one thing about burnout, if you want to stop burnout, if you want to get off the treadmill, you don't want to be stuck, then what you have to do is really, you have to do something which is counterintuitive, which is what the opposite of what you think you should do. Like, you have to slow right down. You have to slow right down. Does that, now, when we think, like, I know, because when I'm dealing with my students, my clients, like, very often when I'm telling them slow down, they don't want to slow down. They're like me. They want to do a million things, right? They want to achieve all of the things, and they want to do it all in one go, but they don't want to slow down, right? But the mere fact that we don't slow down mentally means that physically, even when we're unable to like fulfill all of the things that we're trying to do, like, we don't slow down mentally. And what that does is that impacts us emotionally and then impacts us physically. And when you're impacted physically, because this is psychosomatic, right? Whatever your mind controls your body, right? And if you think about your mind, if it's not slowing down, if you think about it like this, your heart is racing. Can you run fast enough to keep up with your heart? You can't, right? Because your heart goes at a pace much faster than your physical body, right? And your heart, like in Islam, in the science of the nafs, the heart is the mind. The aql is the mind as well, but the heart is the mind. It's driving you. So if the heart is racing, and it's racing with all of these thoughts, all of these beliefs, all of these things that you think you need to do, and you don't slow it down, if you don't slow it down, I mean, physically, if you didn't slow it down, you didn't slow down your breathing, you'd hyperventilate, and you would not be able to, your body wouldn't be able to keep up with it, right? So what we need to do is that we need to slow down. Sounds counterintuitive, because what we want is we think all of the things that we do will create what we want, right? But actually, in order to not burn out, you got to slow right down, and then you got to breathe really slow. And I want you to think about this, like, even now, like, if you were to slow right down and breathe really slow, how would you feel? Like, right now, as we're doing this, like, just do it with me. Just slow right down and just take deep breaths. and exhale like really slow. And when you do that, the world keeps going. You don't need to keep going at the pace of the world. You don't need to go at the pace of everything around you. And when you slow down, what happens is that you let your body breathe. When we don't let our body breathe, then what happens is that it's going at the pace that it can't cope. It's like like my phone. Like very often, like when I'm using it, overusing it, like obviously it's not that great. Like this is an iPhone, but what happens is that like when it gets overused, it heats up, just like we do, right? And when it really overheats, like even in the middle of a call, I'm on a client call, right in the middle of a call, and it just shuts down. And it's so annoying, but I have to really like slow down, and I have to wait for it to just cool down. And when it cools down, it comes back to life and it's fully functioning, right? And we work in exactly the same way. When you slow right down mentally, then what will happen is that physically your body doesn't shut down. Physically, you get to almost like rejuvenate. And when you get to rejuvenate, then what will happen is that you re-energize. And from that place, you can create whatever you want. From that place. That's the best place to do it from. Like when you're overdoing it, when you're overworking, and listen, my students, clients are very ambitious, just like I am, and they're doing a lot. And when you do a lot, what will happen is there's two types of us, right? It's not two types of us, but there's two behaviors that we have, right? You do a lot mentally, you don't do much physically, because mentally you're driven by fear and anxiety. What that does is that still creates burnout. Like your mind is overworking, right? And you're doing stuff, but all of the stuff creates no results. And you're so frustrated and you keep on doing more mentally. And very often we get into consumption mode when we're in this. And I know from experience, my own personal experience, not just my clients. And when we're in this state, we're doing like mentally we're doing more and we're consuming, thinking that it's going to create results, but it doesn't create results. Or it creates a set of results, but not what we want, right? And then you've got like, you're doing a lot mentally, and then you've got this massive to-do list and you're doing a million things and you're just doing everything that you can do, but it's still not creating results. And even though it creates partial results, the results that you want is never there. Because remember, we have our sight always on the next thing, always on the next biggest thing, right? And so no matter how far you go forward, it's never enough. And then what you do is that your body actually slows down. It doesn't give you a choice. And then one day you get up and your body doesn't want to get out of bed. Like physically, your immune system drops, you feel sick, and you're unable to function the way you would normally function. And this is what happens. These are both burnout, right? What it does is that it exhausts you physically and it gives you a whole bunch of symptoms, right? You want to avoid it. And the number one way to avoid it is to not to slow your body down, because you can do a lot, because Allah built you to be amazing. You can do a lot, but you can't do a lot when you're driven by fear, anxiety, worry, pressure, overwhelm. Those emotions drive you down. They don't drive you up. Even though off the back of that, you probably achieved a lot. But if you keep on doing that, eventually your body will respond and it will kick back and it will kick you back and it will tell you, and these are symptoms telling you it's time to slow down, right? You can avoid it, but it's not the slowing down of the body, it's the slowing down of the mind. The mind controls your life. So going back to what we started off with, it's our beliefs, right? So look, I know this is deep. I know this is deep. And this is one of the reasons I share this, because without the knowledge and understanding, this is the passive action. Without the passive action, you can't take like massive action in your life, right? Massive action requires, it's the active stuff that actually creates the results, but it's driven by like really, really powerful emotions of confidence, of not the kind of confidence where you're just driving yourself. We're talking about a calm confidence. Is driven by like love of what you do, love of yourself. Like a lot of people, they don't like themselves, right? And when they slow down enough, there's so many things you don't like about yourself, like you want to speed up just to forget it, right? And so the key is going back to like really the foundation of this. I want to share with you the foundation of all this. Look, you want to stop burnout, slow your mind down. The mind is here. You slow this mind down, the emotions, the anxiety, the fear, all of that stuff will just slow right down. And when it slows down, you get to breathe. And when you get to breathe, you get to actually enjoy your life. When you get to breathe, you get to enjoy your life. And of course, like you've got to take care of yourself physically, but a lot of us, we do take care of ourselves physically, but still we have this problem. We sleep enough, still we have this problem. It's because the mind is forever on the go, right? This is the key, right? So this takes me back to like what really I want to talk to you about, which is like essentially what is going to change your life. This is the key. This is what will change your life. And you see, the thing is, you are created for this world. You are created, and everything in this world was created for you, right? So that means that none of this stuff in this world should exhaust you. None of the stuff in the world should be so much that it's overwhelming you. So the key to this is your belief in yourself, in your belief in Allah, in your belief in your future. Your belief in your future is imperative because it's going to compel you forward, and you're going to do it from a place of calm. And this is what I want to suggest to you. I want to suggest that you actually do it from a place of calm, because when you do it from a place of calm, not neediness, not desperation, but you do it from a place of, I love my life as it is now. And for you to do that, you need to own your mind. This is it. So look, the science of the nafs is so simple. Like what we do is that we take control of our spiritual state, meaning, how you connect with your creator, because it gives you mental stability, health, and you can flourish off the back of that. We take control of our mind and emotions, right? And you want to take control of that so that you're not forever escaping your emotions. You're not on this treadmill of trying to get away from what you're experiencing, and you're able to take control of it. And because if you don't, the emotions will sabotage you. The emotions, they will drive you to a behavior that creates results that you do not like, right? And the third thing is that you do less to get more. This is something that I teach my students. And what we do is that we become more, but we do less, right? This is like the foundation of goal achievement. You become more, you do less. Like doing more does not mean you get more, but becoming more means you get more, right? So if you want to achieve big things in this dunya, you want to achieve the highest state in the akhirah, like Firdaus al-A'la, like the highest paradise, then you have to be ambitious. When the Prophet ﷺ taught us about akhirah, taught us that if you're going to ask Allah for the akhirah, like ask for the highest Jannah, Firdaus, right? We are ambitious people. We're designed to be that way. So the thing is, but you can't get it by doing more. This is counterintuitive to what we've been taught in the productivity world, right? You have to get more by becoming more. When you become more, that means that the state of your mind, your beliefs, like about you, your relationship with yourself, it all changes. Over the next month or two, this is exactly what I'm taking my students through. It's a life transformation, because when you change as a person, your entire life will change. When you, as the person, and this goes back to the verse of Surah Ar-Ra'd, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change themselves. Ma bi anfusihim. When you change yourself, you become more, then what will happen is everything in your life will change. And this is powerful. This is for every one of us. This is not for the special. This is for you and I, right? But it requires you to believe in yourself. It requires you to face like those fears and actually overcome them by taking action. You cannot overcome fear by just sitting around waiting for it to disappear, because it doesn't, because it becomes this underlying anxiety that we keep on experiencing. And the thing is, we were created for this. We were created to lead, and we lead ourselves. And when you get to lead yourself, then you get to lead your life and you get to create massive results, right? And so the thing is, look, the last thing I want to suggest is that you must have a compelling future. The compelling future isn't someday in the future. The compelling future begins today. It happens in our mind. Like in this next couple of months, that this is what we focus on in this institute. Like we create a compelling future that drives you forward from a calm confidence, like from joy, from actually being happy with your life, not being driven by fears and anxieties and worries and pressures. Because all of those things would not give you the results that you're after. Because those negative emotions will create negative results. Even if it's in the short term, like quick fix results that you get, like you may be used to, like that can never last forever, right? So the thing is, what we do is that we create like self-belief. We create a belief, a type of connection to Allah that actually makes you the person that you were created to be. Like it's about changing your relationship. It's not about doing more, because everyone thinks like if you do more, you get that. But that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it, because Allah will not judge you by all of the things that you've done. Allah will judge you by the state of your heart. It's what's going on there. So that is your mind, right? So the most important thing that I want to suggest to you is that you've got to focus on the mind and taking control and changing the mind. This is what we do in this institute. This is what I teach my students. This is the journey that they go through. Over the next few months, we're going to focus on transformation, like true transformation. Like true transformation is not the kind of stuff that has you doing a million things. You must slow down in order to grow. And if you slow down and grow, then you will outgrow your life. It means that a year from now, you're a different person. Your life is different. It means that your relationships are different. It means that the way you interact with the world, the way you interact with people is very, very different. And it means that you get to love your life. This is the way that we do it. This is the way that we've been taught to do it. And listen, every one of us has the ability to do this. There is no one that hasn't the ability to do this, because it's dependent on what? It's dependent on the state of your mind and emotions, because that is going to drive all of your behaviors. All of those actions that we want to take, we're able to create results without overworking, overdoing, burning out, without any of those things, and definitely without sabotaging ourselves. And inshallah, if you take this process and use it like that, your life will change in a very short space of time. You don't have to wait forever to change your life. You can change it in a very short space of time. But the changes are not the kind of changes that throw you off and make you fear your life. And it is driven by excitement. Excitement is an emotion that you want to instill in your life. The contentment that you're going to have is through the connection that you're going to have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When that changes, you get rid of the anxieties and the overwhelm and the worry and all of those things, then all of a sudden you're able to enjoy exactly what's happening in your life now, and you get to love your life. And that's exactly how we do it. And inshallah, if you want to do all of that, you must think bigger than you're thinking right now. You must think bigger than you're thinking right now. The limits that we put on ourselves limit us in what we can actually do. When we are driven by our fears and we make decisions by fear, then we stop ourselves from getting the results that we want. When you decide from excitement and a compelling future that you are about to create, you will love your life. You will love your life. You love the experience. You love every day of that in creating that. And there is no arrival. The arrival is every day as you're creating the journey of your life, inshallah. And inshallah, we're going to leave it on that. Jazakum'Allahu khair. Hey guys, thanks for listening in on this podcast. If you are ready to up-level your mind, emotions, and relationships using a Quranic solution, you're going to love this podcast and what we are going to be sharing over the coming episodes. This is the most fundamental training that you're going to go through in your life. You can use it to transform your life, your mental and emotional health, your relationships, how you parent, how you are in your marriage, and truly your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are loving this and you want more of it, click subscribe, or if you want one of our free trainings, go to themuslimlifecoach.org and sign up for the free training. You're going to love it. I'll see you on the inside. Jazakum'Allahu khair.